Have you ever wondered why the daughters of Adam and Eve are rarely mentioned, unlike their brothers? We all know the story of Cain and Abel, the famous brothers. But what about the others? The truth is, Adam and Eve didn't just have sons, they had daughters too, many of them. Yet here's the strange part. The Bible barely mentions their names or stories. Why? What's been left out? And what secrets might the book of Jubilees, an ancient text excluded from the Bible, reveal about these forgotten daughters? In this video, we'll dive into stories that have been overshadowed for centuries. Stories of the women from the very first family on earth. From Awan, the sister and wife of Cain, to Azra, who played a key role in humanity's spiritual lineage. Their contributions might surprise you. Before we begin, if you enjoy uncovering hidden stories from history and scripture, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's uncover the untold stories of Adam and Eve's daughters and why their absence from history matters. The story of Adam and Eve doesn't end with the birth of Cain and Abel. In fact, Genesis 5:4 tells us something fascinating. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Let that sink in for a moment. Adam lived to be 930 years old, nearly a millennium. During that time, he and Eve didn't just stop at a few children. They likely had dozens, maybe even hundreds. Imagine the size of their family tree. But here's where it gets curious. The Bible gives us the names of only 3 children: Cain, Abel, and Seth. The daughters? Not a single name. Why would their stories be left out? Was it cultural, a matter of focus, or did they simply fade into obscurity over time? This is where the book of Jubilees provides some answers. For those unfamiliar, the book of Jubilees is part of the Old Testament Apocrypha, a collection of writings excluded from the Bible, but respected by many early scholars. Also known as the Little Genesis, is a fascinating work, likely written between the 2nd and 1st centuries BCE. It expands on the events narrated in Genesis and Exodus, providing details not covered in the canonical Bible. Think of it as the director's cut of Genesis, offering details that expand on what we already know. And when it comes to Adam and Eve's daughters, the book of Jubilees gives us something the Bible doesn't: their names and stories. Let's start with the first, Awan, the sister and wife of Cain. Awan wasn't just any daughter. As Cain's sister and later his wife, she played a unique role in human history. Marriages between siblings might seem strange now, but in humanity's earliest generations, it wasn't just common. After all, Adam and Eve's children were the first humans on earth. Awan and Cain had a son named Enoch, and Enoch's birth marked something significant, the start of Cain's legacy. After being exiled for killing Abel, Cain built a city and named it after his son, Enoch. Awan became the matriarch of this lineage, a lineage that continued to grow and spread despite its dark beginnings. But Awan wasn't the only daughter of Adam and Eve who played an important role. The book of Jubilees also introduces us to Azra, whose story is filled with both heartbreak and redemption. Azra was originally married to Abel, her brother, but tragedy struck when Cain killed Abel, cutting Azra's story short, or so it seemed. Instead of fading into obscurity, her life took a new turn. After Abel's death, Azra became the wife of Seth, Adam and Eve's 3rd son. Seth's birth was a turning point for Adam and Eve. His name means appointed or substitute, symbolizing God's provision after the loss of Abel. Together, Seth and Azra had a son named Enos. And during Enos's lifetime, something extraordinary happened. People began to call on the name of the Lord, Genesis 4:26. This marked a spiritual revival, with Enos encouraging prayer, worship, and a renewed faith. Azra, through her lineage, helped shape this turning point for humanity. When we think of Adam and Eve, it's easy to picture a small, intimate family. But Genesis 5:4 tells us they had many sons and daughters during Adam's 930 years. And when we say many, we're talking about dozens, maybe even hundreds of children. Let's put this into perspective. The woman with the most recorded children in modern history, Valentina Vasilyev, had 69 children in the 1700s. Eve, living for centuries, could have had far more. Now, imagine a world where such massive families weren't unusual. These descendants quickly formed communities, spreading across the earth and laying the foundations for humanity. Genesis 6:1 hints at this. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them. But this story isn't just about numbers, it's about diversity. Ancient traditions suggest Adam and Eve's children weren't identical. As humanity's first parents, they carried the genetic potential for the vast range of ethnicities we see today. Modern science supports this idea. Studies of mitochondrial DNA, a type of genetic material passed through mothers, show that all humans share a common maternal ancestor, often called mitochondrial Eve. While not directly linked to the biblical Eve, it's a powerful reminder of our shared origins. From a theological perspective, this diversity reflects God's creativity. Adam and Eve weren't just the parents of one people group. They were the parents of all humanity, embodying unity and diversity in God's design. As we uncover these untold stories, one question lingers. Why were these women forgotten? In biblical narratives, the focus often falls on men, patriarchs, heroes, and leaders. But just because women like Awan and Azra weren't front and center, doesn't mean their roles were insignificant. They were mothers, wives, and matriarchs who carried humanity forward. Think about this. How often do we overlook those who work quietly behind the scenes? This isn't just a biblical pattern. It happens in history, in our daily lives, yet their influence is just as profound. The story of Adam and Eve's daughters reminds us of our shared ancestry. From Awan's lineage through Cain to Azra's line through Seth, their children shaped the human story. They remind us that humanity's beginnings were complex, diverse, and deeply interconnected. And science echoes this message. The concept of mitochondrial Eve highlights how all humans trace back to a common ancestor. This isn't just a biological fact, it's a reminder of our shared humanity, a lesson in humility, connection, and unity. Spiritually, these forgotten daughters symbolize the many untold stories in Scripture. Each one is a testament to resilience, faith, and the enduring power of family. So, what can we learn from these women? Maybe it's to look deeper into the stories of the unseen, to remember that behind every great story, countless smaller ones weave the fabric of history. What do you think about Adam and Eve's daughters? Does their absence in the Bible change how we view humanity's origins? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. If you've enjoyed exploring these hidden stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights into Scripture and history. And feel free to suggest other topics for future videos. Thank you for watching. And until next time, keep seeking, keep reflecting, and keep uncovering the truths that shape our faith.